Good evening, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. I couldn't hear the volume on that. But y'all, it is quite a day in America. America's food and agriculture trade deficit, y'all, they are not in good shape. But last week, our governor was in Des Moines, Iowa, shaking hands at a rally for a man running to be that state's governor. His second trip to Iowa in as many years, and about as subtle a warm up lap for 2028 as this Commonwealth has watched a sitting governor run. Now, nothing wrong with ambition. I love that he's running. But here's what struck me standing in my own grocery store that same week. I could not find one package of Kentucky beef, not one, not one tomato, in a state that raises more beef cattle than any other state east of the Mississippi River. Something is backwards. Tonight, I want to show you exactly what and exactly why it matters more than any Iowa county fair. So, y'all, let's go.
Standing for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Built upon the shoulders of the Constitution, rule of law, and the animating principle that we are all created equal. I need to hear a hallelujah, though I'm not considered a believer by some. I still believe in the warmth of heaven come. I need the rapture I feel when my feet touch the green, green grass of home. Then I know I have reached the valley of kingdom come. And when I reach that valley, I need to see you there, because we don't need a kingdom, we only need free air. We don't seek a king, we seek the brotherhood of man. And we won't fight for bondage, as we need no king or woman. We will stand undivided, because we will raise the fallen. Now I need.
All right, y'all. Hey, so we got Coffee Cats tonight. Coffee Cats, welcome. She says, hey, hope all is well. Hey, all right. Appreciate that. We need it to be great. Y'all, welcome to the Hillbilly Think Tank with Spencer Keck. I am the educated hillbilly. And no, that's not an oxymoron. Don't call me a moron. There have been educated, erudite, and emancipated hillbillies right here in Kentucky ever since my kith and kin came through the Cumberland Gap with Daniel Boone and other long hunters on their quest to find life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness right here. And this is where they dug it out with true grit and they grew it. And we need to make sure our kids can keep on, growing it and finding it here. So I am Spencer Keck, retired Navy doc, combat veteran, and public school teacher currently. I'm also a candidate for magistrate on the Hardin County Fiscal Court, District 3. So y'all, let's look. This first segment, the national picture, Scholten's warning. Let me hand you the numbers first, because they come from somebody who's lived this, not just studied it. J.D. Scholten is a sitting Iowa State representative, the ranking member on that state's agriculture committee, a sixth generation Iowan, and believe it or not, a former professional baseball pitcher. He wrote something recently that every Kentucky farmer ought to read, and I'm not going to walk you through his case straight from him. Well, I'll do some of that actually. Nationally, Scholten reports that America's food and agriculture trade deficit hit an unprecedented $49.5 billion last year, the largest on record. That means we imported $49.5 billion more in food than we sold to the world. Our cattle herd has shrunk to its smallest size in roughly 75 years, even as we import beef at a near record pace. 60% of the fresh fruit Americans eat is now imported, up from 30% in the 1980s. More than a third of our fresh vegetables come from somewhere else too. And here's the part that ought to make you angry regardless of what state you call home. Just 4 companies, JBS, which is Brazilian owned, Tyson, Cargill, and National Beef, control roughly 80% of the beef packing industry in this country. That means the price a rancher gets paid and the price you pay at the counter gets set almost entirely in boardrooms, not by any real market. Scholten's phrase for it, and I think it's exactly right, rural America isn't an economy that failed. It's an economy that succeeded, just not for the people who live there. It's an extraction machine. And y'all, next segment, it's not an accident, it's history. Before I go on, let me say hello real quick to Tom Armstrong. Tom says many Kroger stores have Kentucky made or such section, but beef isn't there. It's usually not refrigerated. So in value market, we'll have some produce sometimes, depending on location. All right, sometimes. Now, try to find it at Whole Foods. Try to find it at Trader Joe's. Of course, they're not here in Elizabethtown, but still talking statewide. All right. Now, Scholten's piece got a response from a scholar who spent his whole career studying exactly this question. And I think his answer deepens everything I just told you. E. Paul Durenberger is a retired anthropologist, author of more than 30 books, including one called The Dawn of Industrial Agriculture in Iowa. And his argument is this: the colonial relationship Scholten describes isn't a recent accident of trade policy. It goes back 150 years to the railroads. Here's the myth. Durenberger says, and I want you to really hear this because you'll hear it over and over, but it's the story most of us grew up believing, that small family farms just naturally got bought up over time by the more efficient, more successful neighbors until only the big operations were left. That's not what happened. Farms got bigger because policy made them bigger. It started with massive government subsidies to build the railroads across this great continent in the 1800s. Railroads that existed to haul crops east to market, which is exactly the pipeline that first turned farm country into a colony instead of an economy of its own. And here's a detail that just landed on Netflix, of all places, that tells this same story better than any textbook. There's a brand new adaptation of Little House on the Prairie, if you didn't know. And it premiered this month on Netflix. And by the end of the very first season, it reveals something the old version never touched upon. The railroad company, working hand in glove with the government, posted those famous free land flyers specifically to lure families like the Ingalls out onto land that legally belonged to the Osage Nation, to force a land sale that would clear the way for the railroad to expand. Displacing a whole nation wasn't a side effect of building that infrastructure. It was the first step of it. And once that infrastructure existed, Durenberger argues, everything else, the land grant schools like Iowa State, the Farm Bureau, the commodity groups, Even the U.S. Department of Agriculture itself grew up inside that same shell, shaped from day one by the industry the railroads had already built. That's why, he says, the question Washington asks was never, how can America feed itself? It's always been, what does global industry and trade need us to grow? And farmers don't get to decide much of anything. They follow the standards industry set, and those standard industry sets come year after year. One more detail from Durenberger's own research, and I'll credit it squarely to him because it's his scholarship, not something I can independently confirm myself. He writes that Soviet leader Joseph Stalin closely studied the agricultural research coming out of Iowa State in the 1920s and 30s, and even invited some of those experts over to help build his industrialized farming in the new Soviet Union. It failed catastrophically for the communists. Collectivization there produced famine, not abundance. But the same industrial model, Durenberger points out, worked out just fine for the capitalists here. Same blueprint, different owners of the profit. Now, if you also know anything more about history, look at what the horrible Chairman Mao did in China. He did the same thing, forcing folks to leave their lives in cities, especially if you had money, you were forced to go out and farm. No clue about farming, but they forced collectivization of farms, and they also failed dismally. So, two communist programs did not work when it came to this type of colonial farming, but it worked with capitalism. Now, next segment, Kentucky's own irony. Now let's bring that all the way home because Kentucky is not some bystander to this story. We are Exhibit A. Kentucky is officially the largest beef cattle state east of the Mississippi River. More than 31,000 beef producers, cattle and calves standing as our single largest agricultural commodity, worth over $1 billion a year to this state, which total farm receipts are on pace right now for a record $8.5 billion 2026. We are not a state without capacity. We are a state absolutely swimming in cattle. And yet, walk into your own grocery store like I did this week and try to find a package that actually says raised in Kentucky. I would wager that most of you cannot easily find it either. And here's why. And it's not complicated once you see it. Our cattle mostly don't get processed here. They get shipped out, often to those same 4 giant packing companies in other states. And what comes back onto Kentucky shelves is meat that's been through a national distribution system with no reason to ever say Kentucky on the label again. Now, y'all, growing up, I moved a couple times with a stepdad who was from Texas. So lived in Texas for a bit, came back to Kentucky, moved around growing up here and there, back to Kentucky, back to other states. And in the military, lived all over the place. I've lived some in Montana. So I've lived in other big beef producing states, just like Texas and Montana. And when I lived in Montana, after retiring from the military, before coming back home to Kentucky, I found the exact same thing, just absolutely mind-boggling. Montana also, huge cattle state. Cowboys, everybody watches Yellowstone. Couldn't find a Montana steak there, a grown in Montana steak at the local grocery store. You had to go, if I wanted it at a local restaurant, it was really hard to find there too. Only found 2 where I could do that. And one was Ted's, which that was Ted Turner's restaurant. I think we got maybe one here in Kentucky, if not Cincinnati or maybe Nashville, I don't know. Anyway, This is a travesty. This is not helping our local economy of farmers and ranchers. All right, we got Joe Machismo on here before I go on, and we got an actual rancher and farmer on here too. So first, Joe Machismo says, my family has been buying beef from local farmers since my grandparents. I still do that, but I did have to go outside of my immediate local area, but I still buy it from a Kentucky farmer. Awesome, Joe, and that is what I am actually on track to do too. That is freaking awesome. Exactly. All right, so my good friend who ran for, tried to get the nomination for the Democratic ticket. He's one of our local ranchers. We got Vincent Thompson on here. He is a cattleman. Vincent says, Kentucky Cattleman's ground beef at Kroger is the only Kentucky produced beef available in distribution. There you have it. Yep, of course, don't buy ground beef that often, but I love a ribeye. To me, nothing much better. But yeah, thanks for letting me know that. Hey, when I do buy ground beef, I'll make sure it's that one. Kentucky Cattleman's ground beef at Kroger's. All right, I'll remember that next time. Thank you, Vincent. So, y'all go ahead and type in your comments here. What has been your, experience? Have you been able to find exactly what you're looking for? I mean, I go myself to our farmers market in season here in Elizabethtown Wednesdays and Saturdays, just so I can find local meat grown in this area and sold at the farmers market. I also buy any vegetables I don't grow in my own garden there too. I promised myself this year that I was going to be a locavore. So, all right, we grow the cattle. We don't keep the value. That, friends, is Scholten's extraction machine running right here in our own backyard, invisible because it never announces itself. It just quietly reroutes the money and the meat around us instead of right through us. And again, all of this meat running all over the nation instead of staying right here, that is also part of this crisis we're in right now, because how many thousands of miles do these calves and steers travel on the train to go get slaughtered and then to come to anywhere in the United States or even go overseas? It goes quite some distance. That's burning a lot of fuel when we could eat it right here. We could butcher it right here if we had one of those places to do it here in our own state. But we don't, even though we're the largest cattle producing state east of the Mississippi. That's an absolute shame.
When you drive to Wendy's and order a single, you get more beef than the Whopper or the Big Mac. At Wendy's, you never have to ask, where's the beef?
All right, well, you probably do have to ask, where's the beef if you want local beef. You're not going to get it at Wendy's. All right, y'all. So, next step. We've got to bring it back to our own folks, buying from beef that Vincent grows, for instance. All right, Joe Machismo, thanks for commenting some more. Joe says, I know this about Kentucky, so this is kind of off topic. A friend of mine in Mississippi says they can't get shrimp from the Gulf at their stores. All the shrimp at their stores are imported. Yeah, man, right on. Well, it's actually not on topic. It's still on track because you've got it, the shrimp right there, and yet they've got to ship it all around, again, wasting all this diesel that now has gone sky high just to eat something right there from the Gulf Coast. You're absolutely, thank you, Joe. That actually is pertinent to what we're talking about. All right, Vincent, make another comment. Vincent says, second now, Florida surpassed us last year due to cattle prices soaring. Ah, okay. I thought I had some local info, but I guess not because you are the ag guy. Um, Vincent's also our conservation representative here in the state. If you would, Vincent, type there in the comments exactly what your position is. All right. So, next segment, Iowa and the trip home nobody's taken. So, y'all, and that brings me back to where we started tonight. Our governor in Des Moines, Iowa, for the second time in 2 years. I want to be fair here because, yeah, this isn't unique to one governor or one party at all. Plenty of politicians on both sides make this same pilgrimage to Iowa, chasing the same early primary spotlight, and Governor Beshear's team has been open about what these trips are, building his name outside Kentucky ahead of 2028. That's just modern politics, and I will not pretend otherwise. But here's my honest question, and it's not really about Beshear at all, specifically. It's about all of them, every ambitious politician who can find time for an Iowa rope line. If Iowa's rural extraction crisis is worth a governor's plane ticket, why does our identical crisis, the same shrinking herds, the same four company chokehold, the same beef we grow and can't find, never quite earn the same headline back home? Rural Kentucky deserves the kind of full throated grow America attention Scholten is demanding for rural Iowa. We deserve it from our own leaders in our own state before they ever board a plane to somebody else's. That's my take. Next segment. Now, you got a sharper story underneath this. So let's get to some solutions because we want this show to be exactly right. And this is a real story, even more important, than talking about where's the beef. Kentucky already has a real farm to school program and is not some hypothetical idea. It's a working, prize winning success story. Just this past January, the Kentucky Department of Agriculture handed out $24,000 to 3 school districts for putting the highest percentage of Kentucky grown food on their students' trays for an entire school year. Jackson Independent School in Breathitt County took first place with $10,000. Mercer County Public Schools placed second. Barron County Public Schools placed third. And those aren't small symbolic efforts. Barron County partners with 14 local farms and 10 student-led farm operations, runs 9 outdoor gardens and 7 greenhouses across every one of its schools, and put 14% of its entire food budget into local products last year. Y'all, we should be copying it. Now, Mercer County's food service director set out to source everything within 40 miles of his office and invested over $150,000 straight back into his own farming community. Kentucky's program has been running for the better part of 2 decades. By 2018, more than 900 Kentucky schools were already serving food for more than 100 Kentucky farms. This is real. This works, and it's ours. But here's the gut punch, and it's the sharper story I actually want you to hear tonight. Jackson Independent's own superintendent credited a specific federal grant called the Local Food for Local Schools Cooperative Agreement Program as the thing that let his tiny Breathitt County district build 4 years of relationships with local farms in the first place. That program sent 600 $60 million a year to schools in more than 40 states to buy exactly this kind of local food. And in March of last year, the Trump administration's USDA canceled it, along with a companion program that helped food banks buy local food too. More than $1 billion gone, with the agency's only explanation being that the programs no longer effectuate the goals of the agency. My gosh, 29 U.S. senators from both parties' home states wrote a letter demanding it be reversed. Governors from both parties, Pritzker in Illinois, Healy in Massachusetts, Polis in Colorado, condemned the cut in public. It has not been reversed. Now, y'all, I mean, think about it. Right now, and there have been members also that are, folks that are running for magistrate on the Democratic ticket. Stephen Mapp has pointed out on his website and on other people's websites, we're passing this back and forth. Hardin County Public Schools is going to have a shortage of free lunch for the kids if the parents don't fill out, if every single parent doesn't fill out the forms to figure out whether the kids qualify at the school. Well, if they fill them out and we could get that extra $10,000 because we become one of the top counties in this competition every year, think about what that would do for our kids that I've seen in the classroom hungry. That would do a lot. So here's the honest, correct version of tonight's argument. This isn't a case where nobody's tried the local food fix. We have been. Kentucky farmers, y'all, Kentucky superintendents, and Kentucky kids already built something that works from the ground up. And the same federal government that keeps talking about supporting farm families just pulled part of the ladder right out from underneath the very program proving Scholten's whole thesis right. And here's a piece of good news I can tell you firsthand. Hardin County Public Schools, like I said, does take part in this program. I know it two ways. A number of our own school board, a member of it, just confirmed it directly to me. And I saw it with my own eyes because I taught in this district and myself from 2021 to 2023. We're already in the game. We just didn't bring home one of those 3 trophies that I mentioned this January. We didn't bring them home. Now, that's not a knock on our district. That's a challenge. We've got real local farms ready to deepen that partnership right here. Adams Farms, Solway Farms, Fallen Maple Farm, Modern Heritage Farm, Wilmoth, Family Farms, and more. Plus active 4-H and extension nutrition programming already running in our schools. The pieces, they're already on the table in District 3. Now let's go win the thing. Now, all right, Vincent, Vincent, I challenge you, we got to get together on this, man. Vincent here's his position, the chairman, Hardin County Soil and Water Conservation District. Vincent, we'll have to talk later via phone or person to person. We need to get Hardin County to win this competition next year. All right, Coffee Cats. Coffee Cat says kids should never go hungry in this country. No, they should not. And we had a program, but this president cut the program that would help both our farmers and our kids. All right, Coffee Cats also said, and it happens all the time. Yes, it does. It does. I teach now in Jefferson County Public Schools, so I wouldn't have a conflict of interest by running for office and teaching here. And I see it there too. It's a travesty. All right. Tom Armstrong says, thanks, Tom, for being on. Tom says, but the big farm companies have more effective lobbyists. Oh, yes, they do. That's for sure. But get enough folks like Vincent Thompson out there who is, again, our Hardin County Soil and Water Conservation District Chairman. And he's also a cattleman. Get folks like that on the ball, and we can win this thing. We can get that money for the kids. We can also put pressure. Every single chairman of every county in this nation, every chairman of the Soil and Water Conservation District can get together with the local ag, and we can put pressure together, DC, to turn this thing around. Get magistrates talking to our state government and telling them to put pressure on the federal government. Hey, it's election time. They should be listening. All right. Now, again, appreciate y'all. Let's keep on going. All right. Next segment. What actually fixes it? Now, Scholten doesn't just diagnose the problem, he offers real fixes. And I want to give him full credit for them because, hey, they're good ones. First, incentivize local food systems. Grants for regional meat processing plants. We need to bring these back so ranchers aren't chained to just 4 buyers. Those 4 buyers we talked about earlier that also Tom was alluding to. We also need tax incentives for schools and grocers that buy local. Support for farmers markets and food hubs that let small producers sell straight to their neighbors. And like I said, that's what I go do every Wednesday and Saturday that I can. I go to our local Hardin County Farmers Market right here in Elizabethtown. Now, second thing we can do, treat the food trade deficit like the warning sign it is, and set a real national target to rebuild capacity in beef and fresh produce, the same way that we would treat energy independence or semiconductor manufacturing. Third, and I love this one, bring back real, unwatered down country of origin labeling. Right now, a company can slap product of USA on beef that was born and raised in another country as long as it got repackaged here. And we know right now they're bringing in cattle from Mexico due to our deficit. And of course, we're having this problem with the worms that you hear about and other stuff. But if they're butchered here, they can claim it's a product of the USA. Tell me if I'm wrong, Vincent. That's not protecting American ranchers. That's letting importers wear our flag while undercutting the folks who actually earned it. Clip that. All right, next segment. The line. Fair is fair. Now, of course, let's give the honest hearing because there isn't a dirty word all by itself. Trade is not a dirty word all by itself. There's real argument for global trade. It's part of why strawberries can sit in your grocery cart in January, why prices on plenty of goods have stayed lower than they would have otherwise be, and why consumers get variety our grandparents never had. Small regional processing plants are also generally hard to stand up now that we've stood them all down, and they're expensive. They face real bottlenecks, and 4 companies didn't get to 80% of the market by accident. They built efficient, if brutally consolidated, supply chains. Those are real fair points. But here's my answer. Nobody on this show is arguing for a wall around Kentucky. The argument is that when the concentration gets this extreme, 4 companies setting the prices in both directions, that's not a free market delivering you a cheaper strawberry anymore. That's a choke point. And choke points eventually get squeezed by whoever's holding them, not by supply and demand. You can't believe in trade and still believe in a country and commonwealth, and still believe that they ought to be able to feed itself first and then sell the surplus second instead of the other way around. So if we're going to believe in trade and again, still believe in our country and our Kentucky Commonwealth, we've got to be able to feed ourselves first. And then if there's any surplus, sell it. Don't demand all the surplus from the other countries come in here and glut our market. That should be secondary, if at all. All right, y'all, so let's bring it home to Hardin County. So bringing it home because a magistrate has real concrete tools here, even if I can't rewrite a federal trade deal. And I know exactly what the first one should be. A fiscal court doesn't run the school district's cafeteria budget directly, but a magistrate has a voice and a relationship with our school board, who I called tonight to verify, like I said, that we still do the farm to school program in our cafeterias. And a magistrate has a bully pulpit to say plainly, we're already in this game. Hardin County Public Schools takes part in Kentucky's farm to school program right now. I know that firsthand from teaching in this district myself, and a member of our own school board confirmed it to me directly. We just didn't bring home one of those 3 trophies this January. Jackson Independent did, with 10,000 students fewer than us. Mercer County did. Barron County did. There is no reason on God's green earth that Hardin County, sitting on this many working farms, this much extension and 4-H infrastructure already in our schools, shouldn't be standing on that stage next January collecting its own award. I'd push for exactly what those winning districts describe: a food service director doubling down on farmer relationships, a district willing to feature one local item a day, and a community willing to celebrate it. That's not a new bureaucracy. We've already built the foundation. Now it's a phone call and a decision to go win the recognition our kids and our farmers have earned. And beyond our own schools, a fiscal court controls real purchasing power of its own. The food that goes into our jail and our senior centers is a lever too. I'd fight to steer as much of that spending as legally possible toward Kentucky grown beef, Hardin County grown beef, and produce right here in District 3 first. County government can support, not obstruct, farmers markets and food hubs that let a rancher outside Sonora or a vegetable grower outside of Vine Grove and also all over in Colesburg sell straight to their own neighbors, keeping that dollar circulating here instead of bouncing straight to a boardroom in Sao Paulo or Bentonville, Arkansas. And a magistrate has a voice to push Frankfort and Washington both ways toward the regional processing capacity Scholten's talking about, and toward restoring the federal local food for schools funding that got Jackson's independence program off the ground in the first place before it got yanked out from under districts just like ours. We are Daniel Boone's Kentucky, y'all, and a commonwealth, not a colony. That word, commonwealth, isn't decoration on our state seal. It means the wealth is supposed to stay in common, shared among the people who actually built it. And we built it here. Right now, too much of ours is leaving on the first truck out. I'm running to help keep more of it right here where the cattle are actually raised, and to make sure Hardin County finally joins the Kentucky districts already proven that it can be done. Now, y'all, all right, Joe's got some more. What do we say, Joe? Joe says, I think some of it is also because of the amount of farms that the county has lost over the last couple of decades. Okay, yeah, of course, a lot of them have also been consolidated with others, but yes, true. All right, so y'all, appreciate y'all listening. Please like and subscribe before I go on, and share this with your friends, with your family, with anybody you know, especially that is right here in Hardin County or nearby it. If someone watches it nearby it, they'll tell someone else over in Hardin County. I need your votes in November. And y'all, I'm Spencer Kett, the Educated Hillbilly, and this has been the Hillbilly Think Tank. Come to a fiscal court meeting. Bring your hardest question. Whether I earn your vote or not, we together will answer your question and get a real answer. I'll see you there. Keep thinking deeply. And remember, in Kentucky, united we stand, divided we fall. Those aren't just words on a flag. Those words are the glue. Those actions are the glue that hold us together. Because if we love our neighbors as ourselves and we recognize that, yes, we are our brother's keeper and our sister's keeper, then we cannot be divided and we will not fall. Remember everyone deployed overseas, because gosh, man, we know it is not good right now for them. They're in harm's way. And bless your corazon, that is Spanish for heart. This has been paid for by Spencer Keck. Learn more at spencerkeckmagistrate.com. Y'all, it's time to vote in November. Get out there. Let's do it. Let's get her done.
Standing for life, liberty, in the pursuit of happiness, built upon the shoulders of the Constitution, rule of law and the animating principle that we are all created equal. I need to hear a hallelujah. Though I'm not considered a believer by some, I still believe in the warmth of heaven come. I need the rapture I feel when my feet touch the green, green grass of home. Then I know I have reached the valley of kingdom come. And when I reach that valley, I need to see you there. Because we don't need a kingdom, we only need freedom. And we don't seek a king, we seek the brotherhood of man. And we won't fight for bondage, as we need no king or woman. We will stand undivided, because we will raise the fallen. Now I need to hear a hallelujah as we tear down the wall. The divide between heaven and earth is tears turn to mirth as we walk through the valley of death. And I draw my last breath. I know rapture I feel when I touch the green, green grass of home. Then I know I have reached the hollow where my ancestors roam. I have seen the dream I've seen Martin's dream of justice alive and whirlwind Thanksgiving. My family sits down to break bread together with folks of many different races, ethnicities, religions. My family sees Martin's dream and we all live it. Judge people